Welcome to this tutorial on financial modeling using Kaluta projection methodology. In this tutorial we are going to learn how to do presentation of common size financial statements. So we will start with our annual projected financials, and in the next tutorial we will do for monthly projected financials. So I am here at my annual income statement, and here is where I'm going to do that exercise. So I will leave year 0. This is pre-operating period where we haven't started yet making sales, so there is no point using this period. We will start from year 1, and for that matter I am copying here. I copy this and then paste it here, ready for the exercise. So common size financial statements reduces the financial statements from absolute figures into percentage terms using a base figure. In our case here for income statement, we are going to use sales as a base figure. We use sales because first, sales is the largest figure compared to the rest, and because when you compare any line item with sales, you are actually checking out the margin. Okay, you are computing the margin, so it makes sense by looking at the efficiency of each line item towards its contribution to sales revenues of the company. Okay, so that's the reason why we use sales as our common denominator for the purpose of derivation of common size percentage. So to do that, I'm going to put a formula here, a year 1, by opening this, start with equal sign, and then I take this sales figure for year 1 and then I divide it by itself, and I want to use this formula to drag throughout, and for that matter I will need to lock my reference. Row reference should remain constant while column reference can vary. Okay, so in this case I'm going to lock my row 2 while column C will be relative. So to put the formula, I've taken this and then I divide by C. So C is going to be relative, I put it C, and then row 2 is going to be absolute, so I start with $ and then click 2 and then press enter. So I have that, and let me format this into percentage terms. So I choose this percentage. After that I can then just fill this throughout here, and after that I can copy this one and then paste it to all other line items. Here I paste it here, I select up to the end here at total administrative, here I paste, here I select up to here, I paste, here I paste, here I paste, I paste it here, up to here. I leave cumulative figure. Okay, So I already have my common size income statement computed or presented, and now you can see for common size financials, basically it is a vertical analysis. Okay, so it computes common size financials at a certain period, in this case year one, for example. Okay, so we have cost of sales as a percentage of sales, salaries as a percentage of sales, etc. And now we can see which line items have a bigger chunk compared to the other. For example, in percentage terms, of course, cost of sales is the biggest, and this is what we modeled in our projected financials, is the biggest, and followed by administrative expenses, which is 14%. Okay, so we can see which line item have a bigger chunk of cost compared to other cost items within income statement. Okay, and apart from vertical analysis, you can also use these common size financials for horizontal analysis, that is trend analysis. So in this case, you are comparing from one period to the other, okay, from year one to year two and so on. So if we look at our salaries and wages here, we see in year one it is 14.17%, year two 12.2%, and it remains steady for the rest. And this is what we modeled in our projected financials, a steady state. Okay, check out previous lessons for this. And so we have our common size financials reduced, and we can see and then compare. And the comparison can be, as I said, vertical analysis or horizontal analysis, and you can compare your financials with another company from the same industry, or industry data if you have common size financials for industry data. Okay, for another company you may have them from published accounts. You can derive these, and because, well, those comparisons we are talking about for the financials that have been prepared using general accepted accounting principles, so that you can compare one financials from the other. Okay, here we are doing projections, and this does not necessarily follow a general accepted accounting principles, but in most cases this is what I have done, that it has observed the general accepted accounting principles, so it's comparable to other financials. Okay, so apart from the vertical and horizontal analysis, you can also do industry comparison to see whether your data or your numbers make sense comparing to the industry, and if it is the trend, see whether you are improving or not. Okay, so for example, for the salaries cases here, it started big and then reduced. Then this could be a good sign that your salaries and wages expenses relative to sales gets reduced. That means sales are relatively larger than these expenses, maybe because the sales are growing faster than these salaries and wages, or it could be probably you are losing employees, and so you have to check for the real reason what. And of course, comparing with the industry will tell you whether you are at the better or lesser position compared to the average performance in the industry. So that's it about common sense financials for income statement. Let us now go to do the same on the cash flow statement. Annual cash flow statement. Annual cash flow statement sheet is here. So we are doing the same, taking year 1 up to year 3. So copy this and then let me put it here, paste. In this case, you can use different approaches to making your common sense financials. The approaches that I'm going to use total cash flow from operation figure as a base figure for preparation of common sense financial for line items from cash flow from operations, and total cash flow from investing activities as a base figure for line item from cash flow from investing activities, and so on. Okay, so I see this makes more sense. You can also, of course, use, for example, net cash flow as a common denominator for the rest of all transactions within your cash flow statement. Okay, and because, in my case here, for example, cash flow from investing activities, I don't have those from year 1, year 2, there's nothing, and only a small item in year 3. So I don't need to prepare common sense financial for cash flow from investing activities, neither from cash flow from financing activities, because year 1 I don't have figures, year 2 I don't have figures. For capital loan I have for loan repayments, of course, but not very much. Of course you can prepare, but I don't see the reason. Well, let us prepare for all. Now, so I have already put here, and I'm going to put the formula now. So starts with, use this one, start with equal sign. So in year 1 I take these cases in year 1 and then divide it by total cash flow from operations. Okay, figure from total cash flow from operations, and I want to lock row 21 so that when I drag this formula it becomes relevant in all other cells. So I'll type C and then type absolute $, and then type 21 to lock that row. Okay, so I have my percentage here. Okay, this one, let me select, fill this to here, and then I can copy this. Let me select it again, sorry, here up to year 3, yeah, and then copy this, and then I go to all other line items here up to here, total cash flow from operations. I paste. So I have my computations here. Let me arrange them in percentage. So in percentage terms we will not see much here because we have our total cash flow from operations. For example, in year 1 is negative. Year 1 is 4.6 million, but it's lesser than, for example, from cash sales from operations, 102.8 million. So comparing, deriving this cash sales percentage, it becomes much greater compared to this base figure here. So a good presentation would be in forms of multiples instead of percentage in this case. So I'll format this using this approach here, so that the negative numbers becomes red. Okay, so I have the multiples now. Instead of percentage, I have the multiples of total cash flow from operations, okay, of each line item within cash flow from operations. So for example, cash sales is 22.18 times more than the total cash flow from operations. Okay, so this one explains it better comparing to percentage figure, because our denominator figure is less than our line item there, and because we have positive and negative figures inside to compare within the cash flow items. Okay, so this is the best presentation I see, instead of using the percentage for that matter. And as I said, well, for this one, for example, we have 0 here, year 1, 0 here, total cash flow from investing activity. So using that comparison will not make sense. Okay, it will not make sense in this case because we don't have figures. Okay, here from investing activities we can do, but still we have negative cash here in year 1, year 2, and year 3, so all are negative. So comparison will be in terms of negative numbers. Of course we can do that, but we have no loan and capital, capital loan items are not there, so only loan repayment is there. So for our case here, common size financials for total cash flow from operations is the one that makes sense for comparison. So we will end up there. So you can see here which line item has greater contribution towards your total cash flow from operations. Okay, and in this case, cash sales contributes much. Okay, and the one that draws out cash much is, in this case, is cash, because it is 22 times more than total cash flow from operations. And the one that draws out cash more is creditors repayments, which is 28.6 times more than the total cash flow from operation figure. Okay, so we see which line items have contribution towards our total cash flow from operation, and we can see it vertically but also horizontally. And as we can see, for the debtors collection horizontally, they were great, but later they were reduced, but they remain steady. And this is how we model our numbers. The same for creditors repayment. They were great for the first year, greater for the first year, but lesser in the previous years. So that's about trend. Okay, now let us go to do the same for balance sheet. Annual balance sheet here. So we are here. I will again select this year 1 up to year 3. Copy this and then paste it here. and we will do our start. We will use total assets. In this case, we will use total assets as our base figure, or as our denominator for common size financials, because total asset first is the largest figure compared to the rest, and as the rest of line items, so it makes sense for comparison percentage wise, but it also is an efficiency it's an efficiency indicator. When you compare an asset or liability with its total assets or total liability, then you compare the efficiency of that asset or liability towards the total balance sheet of the company. Okay, so let us do that by putting a formula here. Start with equal sign. Year 1, of course we leave year 0 as usual, so we take year 1 cashier and then we divide by total assets, which is total assets is C16. So divide by, I start with C, which should be relative, but 16 should be absolute, so I start with $ and type 16 to lock. So I am done there. I'll arrange this later. Let us just fill this here, and then after fill this, I copy this and then paste this in every place where there are figures. So there, here I paste it, here I paste it, here I paste it, here I paste it, here I paste it. I'll paste it from here up to here, here there is nothing. We can do it here, we can paste it here and here up to total owners equity, paste it there, and here paste it. Okay, now let me format this. I select this and format this as percentage. So percentage. Okay, so we have our common size balance sheet, and we can see each line items. For assets, we are saying each line item in assets as a percentage of total assets, and though we have used this total assets for the rest even in the current liabilities, but we know that total assets is equal to total liabilities and equity. So we can say that the percentage in the current, in the liability side, we use current liabilities and equity as a denominator for computation of common size for liability items. Okay, so that's it, and definitely you can see now which line item contributes more to the total assets of the company. And in this case, in the current assets, we see debtors here, and we can see the trend, it keeps on reducing. Okay, and you will compare, of course, as I said, with industry data or with competitors data and see whether your figure makes sense. Decreasing could be good in terms of you are collecting more of your data, but it could also mean that you are losing business. So it will all depend on your internal analysis and as I said, in comparison with the industry. So that's what you do actually, and that's the usefulness of common size financials, because you reduce all the numbers, absolute figures, into percentages that are comparative. It can be compared between one line item and the other, because you now compare like with likes in terms of percentage. Okay, so that's all for our analysis of annual common size financial statements. In the next presentation, we are going to do this on monthly basis, because our projection model is on monthly basis. And I will explain later the importance of having the monthly financial. Of course, I've already explained it several times in my presentation, but as we go along, you will understand more why you also need to have computations on monthly basis for presentation purpose. So bye for now. Subscribe to my channel if you like, of course. Share any content if you like. Comment. Okay, your sharing will definitely be appreciated, because it will inform others about the availability of this tutorial, and for that matter, my job will be rewarded if I would see many people benefiting from my expertise. Bye for now. See you in the next presentation.